Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing another video from Grab the Lantern today. I know it's been a while, and Riot, of course, announces everything when I'm not able to make videos, but we're back today, and we're going to be taking some time to talk through everything that was discussed in the recent dev update over the next couple of days in a series of videos. Today I wanted to be talking about the champ roadmap, as I'm very excited about the things that were announced here, kind of going through what Riot discussed and what my thoughts are on the individual champions. Now, as a brief thing at the very beginning, Riot mentioned that Melia was more simple than other characters. They highlighted that Melia was the first simple character we got in a while. Almost every champion released last year was very mechanically demanding, and that they want to try and have variety moving forwards. I think this is an extremely good idea. I know I did recently make a video about how complicated is generally better, but you do need variety. There are players who don't want to have to, have 500 IQ or play a 200 years champion just to have fun with the game. They just want to click buttons and have a good time. And to that end, I do think Melia is good, and I do think that having variety is a good thing. So I do think that this note is a little odd, but generally I'm happy that Riot did take some time to talk about this. On to the big reveals, though. First is that Skarner has been delayed till next year. Now, I did make an entire video about how I knew Riot had no idea what they were doing with Skarner given their most recent update, and it does seem like that was the case. Riot are pushing Skarner back a year to give them enough time to actually come up with a kit that they like for him, which I think makes sense. Now, Riot over on Reddit did say that since the article was written, they have found a direction that they're confident in, and they're pursuing it a little bit more, and they're gathering a little bit of momentum towards Skarner, so there's a chance that he comes out before next year, sort of maybe towards the end of the year. But suffice to say, design is the kind of iterative process that could lead them back to the drawing board again where Skarner is concerned, so I, again, would not expect him for an entire year. Now, and I think this makes a lot of sense. I do think they needed to give themselves time. I think that trying to force him out the door was a bad decision, and the decision to push him back and basically announce to fans, hey, we're sorry, is a good idea for them and makes sense, and it serves the game better to do this rather than trying to push out a half-assed Skarner that no one was going to actually like. I do hope they take this time to reevaluate Skarner's lore. I really am just not a fan of the direction that they talked about, especially with regards to removing any and all involvement in the Hextech story. I just think that is such a wasted opportunity, but Riot didn't say they were going to be reevaluating the story aspect, just giving themselves more time to deal with the kit, so I'm probably going to be disappointed in that approach, but hey, a guy can dream. However, they did say that a new VGU will be coming out sooner in order to sort of compensate for Skarner being pushed back, and that is a Jax VGU. Now, Riot did confirm that the mid-scope update that Jax got towards the end of last year was part of the VGU. The VGU was actually in flight at the same time as the Legends of Runeterra Jax design. The VGU ended up running into some issues, and Legends of Runeterra had to release before League of Legends did. But suffice to say, then, the Legends of Runeterra design is the new actual Jax visual design, which I'm a big fan of. I like the direction that they've taken his character. I like the direction that they've taken his visual design. I'm not a big fan of the kit. I was really hoping that Riot would take a closer look at Jax and fix some of the issues that I at least see, which are that a lot of his outputs are unavoidable. Mostly all he does is right-click you, which doesn't even feel very fitting for his character, which is a weapons master who should be feeling like he outplays you, but Jax doesn't do that. He just right-clicks you to death. I'm not a big fan of that. I do like that the mid-scope gave him a little bit more ability to be outplayed, with things like his ultimate being failable now. But generally speaking, I was a little disappointed to hear that, but I know Riot really liked Jax's kit, so while I'm not a fan, I have to respect the fact that they do like Jax's kit the way it is, and they're not going to make sweeping changes to it. I'm very excited to see what he looks like visually once they do change him, and I do think that the lantern design with the light of Acacia was a good way to take the old lamppost design and say, hey, this is something that isn't a literal lamppost that we're going to be running with instead. I do hope that Riot keep Jax's backstory still a little under wraps. It's very heavily implied that Jax is not human, but also is still a humanoid type race. And I would love it if Riot just didn't ever confirm anything, right? We never see Jax unmasked. We never get actual confirmation that he's not human. Riot just roll with it. They just say, yeah, he's from Acacia. Don't worry about the 3 fingers thing. That's normal for him. And just roll with it, right? Because I think it's kind of fun, and I do think that there's room in League of Legends to keep some mysteries, at least for the moment. But we'll see how things go. They will likely go full masks off, pardon the pun, with Jax when his VGU goes live. Either way, I'm excited about this coming to live. Finally then, Riot gave us a couple of hints about our next few champions, including Naafiri. Now, they made a ton more dog puns, so if you're not expecting a dog-shaped Darken at this point, I don't know what to tell you. That is clearly what's going to be happening. But the diagram in the image, I will have the entire article linked in the description if you're curious, but the diagram shows a singular hound-type creature, and then shows multiple little hound-type creatures, and Riot do specifically say, crafting an escape plan to get out alive. What it seems to me is Naafiri can split herself into multiple, like, smaller hounds to sort of patrol the map and look for opportunities to find enemy champions, then can recombine into a much larger and killier hound to then murder them from there, which I think is a very interesting way of going about things. Or maybe the hounds are just one part of Naafiri, and Naafiri combines into a more traditional Darken-like form when she finally does recombine. That would be interesting as well, because we do know that she's supposed to have a Darken dagger. Now, one thing that Riot did talk about is they wanted to move Naafiri away from having a very high skill-intensive assassination pattern like most other assassins and wanted to focus more on the macro. Now, this worries me a little bit. Generally, assassins are sort of balanced around the fact that you have to be good at them to actually kill people with their burst combos. If you die to a good Zed, for example, it can feel like it was completely unfair, but also you know that Zed really knows his champion, really knows his stuff, and is good at those micro level engagements, versus a bad Zed who can't hit anything and therefore won't assassinate anybody, right? Like, you might still die to the good Zed, but you're like, that Zed is really good. He knows what he's doing on that champion, and that makes it feel a little bit more fair. Having an assassin that can kill you very easily, Talon for example, feels bad because the assassin is supposed to kill you in one rotation, right? That's their whole shtick, but it feels bad when it doesn't feel like the assassin had to do anything particularly noteworthy to do it. He just pressed all his buttons and killed you dead. And Naafiri, in this regard, having an easier to execute assassination pattern makes me a little worried because I don't want another champion like this that just feels terrible to play against because she just presses all her buttons and kills you instantly. But Riot wanted to focus more on the macro aspect for Naafiri. This could potentially entail controlling multiple different units all at the same time before recombining them into Naafiri herself, and in that regard, I think this would be a fair way to gate some of Naafiri's power, saying you have to play the macro game well in order to actually get assassinations, which would then feel fine, and especially given that most League of Legends players' macro is not good. League of Legends players are really good at the micro, not so good at the macro, as a general rule of thumb. So I feel like Naafiri then testing your macro awareness, saying, hey, you need to be paying attention to what's going on across the map to figure things out and to make me work, I think is probably a fair direction to take her, so I don't necessarily hate this idea. Again, I have a couple concerns, but I think that generally, Naafiri is going to be an interesting champion to play. Riot then gave us a couple of teasers about our two next champions. These are the Hangry Jungler and the Artistic Mid Laner. Now, the Hangry Jungler, a lot of people are saying is going to be like a vampire-type character. I think there's the potential Riot make a lot of uncontrollable hunger-type puns and go into a frenzy-type puns, which I could see, but there are a lot of other like creatures in mythology that have intense hungers that do want to be devouring humans. Werewolves, for example. And we already have a werewolf and a vampire XP in League of Legends between Vladimir and Warwick, so I think doubling back on vampire, doubling back on werewolves wouldn't necessarily work for me, but there is a chance that this is like a more feral type of vampiric character as opposed to Vlad, who's very posh and sophisticated. So going the alternate approach to it, I think could be an interesting way to take the character. Maybe, maybe not, we'll see. Riot do say Frenzy. That means that this character probably has a way to enter a Frenzy. Maybe the character even berserks themselves in order to just have like a ton of free damage. And there's also a big, heavy, what looks like a collar depicted in the artwork, which I believe is likely something that the character themselves is wearing, maybe as a way to control their hunger, and when they alter something to go into their Frenzy, that collar either is removed or breaks apart or something along those lines, allowing them to unleash their full uncontrollable hunger. That would be quite interesting. The character's name also might have been dropped in this article. Briar is specifically mentioned, so that would be kind of a cool name to have, but we'll see if that's actually the name that they went with to go live. Finally, the Artistic Mid Laner, we don't really get that much about. There wasn't even an image. They rationed that away by saying, oh, we told the artist to make us an image, and they just gave us a white canvas and nothing else on it. And that the artist is super broody and moody and not at all as vibrant or lifelike as their art is. And they do say that maybe something terrible happened to him in the past. Now, this leads me to think a couple things, number one of which is Jin, who is an artist, no matter how loosely you say that, from Ionia. So maybe this character is someone related to Jin, who either studied alongside Jin or potentially taught Jin, and then when Jin went rogue and started murdering people, maybe this character, as their mentor, felt bad It was like, I made a mistake, I messed up, and I have to atone for this, and that's why he's all moody and broody now. Like, I could totally see that. I hypothesized before that this might be a character like the Maker, who is the person who created Jin's gun. So maybe that's a character we're getting, but I feel like this is such a dead ringer for being involved with Jin that I'm very confident in saying that's likely the case. We don't know anything for certain, unfortunately, and this article, this specific paragraph was pretty vague on exactly what this character has going for them, but they're going to be after Naafiri and the hangry jungler anyway, so we have some time for them to continue to hint. And that is it. That was the entire concept of the Champion Roadmap, which felt very short to me, but a lot of it was teasing at newer characters and then saying, hey, Skarner isn't going anywhere, but we're doing Jax instead, but we already did Jax's gameplay aspect, so it's just all art, and you can literally already see his art design because it's in Legends of Runeterra. So there wasn't that much to say, but it was nice of Riot to do this regardless. You guys should let me know what you're most excited for in the comment section below. I'm really excited to see Naafiri. I'm hoping they do a good job on our newest Darkin, and I'm excited to see what she's going to be bringing to the table. But like I said, let me know your favorites down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave it a like. And if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.